Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ancient Warfare Answers with me, Murray. Today is the second question that was asked by Simon in this hand-drawn postcard. Very exciting. And that is, of course, were there notions of losing well or instances of an exemplary defeat in ancient warfare? Thanks, Simon. Thank you, Simon. Indeed, I'll put you up there now in front of Aristotle. It's getting glare from the lights. Oh, can I tip it so that it's more visible? Lovely. Hopefully that doesn't get blown over. Now, yes, of course, there are indeed exemplary defeats. Perhaps the most famous is the Battle of Thermopylae. And we've got an Ancient Warfare big episode where we interview Mike Cole and Michael Livingston coming for you soon, where we talk about the Battle of Thermopylae in depth, but there is still much to say about that. The interesting thing there, of course, is that, and in terms, I don't want to get political with modern ideologies, that somehow, somewhere, the defeat at Thermopylae is turned into a victory, and seems to be that it's forgotten that it is in fact a defeat, and it's something that can be avenged later. You know, when Alexander gets to Persia, very early, he sends 300 suits of armor back to Delphi from Persia, and that seems to be directly related to avenging the defeat at Thermopylae. And so that good defeat, where the defeat is worth more than what you lose, is certainly part of a tradition that grows up. There are, of course, other defeats. And like when you look, for instance, at the trial of Socrates, he is defeated, but he, stays true to his code of conduct by remaining in Athens for a month after his trial. That month, he should have escaped. And I'm pretty sure, when a sentence of death is passed on you to drink hemlock in Athens, you're meant to have done it in a day, 24 hours. And they have a sort of oh, no, we've got a festival on. It won't happen. And of course, Socrates' friends are trying to persuade him to leave, and he refuses. And so that is a similar idea, that he's victorious in defeat there. And there's a great deal of shame and guilt amongst the Athenians for putting him to death. There's even stories that some of the prosecutors are themselves prosecuted later. Now, that's, of course, those, and several of the other defeats, which are glorious defeats or exemplary defeats, come about as emulations of the Battle of Thermopylae, for instance, or even, in fact, Socrates. If you look at Seneca's death, it's a very similar kind of idea. And I mean, Socrates too comes into, when you look at the Battle of Delium, his conduct following the Battle of Delium, which is a defeat, is, of course, that he turns around and faces the enemy. And so he's the only hoplite at the Battle of Delium who seems to behave in an exemplary manner, as hoplites should behave. So there's an exemplary defeat in his behavior, not in anyone else's behavior. Now, interestingly, when you look at is it frogs or clouds? Oh, or wasps. Oh, I can't remember which one. Anyway, the play the following year, 423 BC, by Aristophanes, where it's quoted at Socrates' trial, is the line that, he walks around, and it's regarded as criticism of him. But in fact, it's not. And there's evidence to say that there's more than one poet is referring to Socrates' behavior in the following year, including Eupolis, that they can't make fun of everyone else, because everyone else present in the audience ran away from the battle. The only person who didn't run away from the battle is Socrates. So it's Socrates that's targeted, but more as an ironic lauding of him than an actual attack on him. Pisander is called the most cowardly soldier in the army. So there are a couple of examples of people who are attacked for their cowardice, but weirdly, Socrates is attacked for his bravery. So there's irony going on there. And Socrates is also involved in one other defeat, sorry. So he's involved in the defeat at Delium, but he's also involved in a defeat at the Battle of Amphipolis. So there seems to be something going on with the imaging of Socrates there. But like I said, many of the other exemplary defeats are made into emulations of Thermopylae. So the Battle of Camarina in 258 BC, where you get a Roman who leads 300 men. Oh my gosh, it's Thermopylae. And they die to a man except for the leader, as a way of protecting the other legions. So you get that also as a sort of a sacrifice, an exemplary sacrifice. Horatius on the bridge, the three of them sacrificing themselves to protect Rome. There's lots of sort of examples of self-sacrifice in battle, which is a personal defeat or a partial defeat, but generally speaking, it goes on to be a victory for the Romans. And even though they were defeated or even though they died, a bigger defeat of the enemy was to come as a result of their actions. So there's quite a few of those. When you start to look, for instance, at Masada in Josephus, there's this idea of an exemplary defeat in the sense of robbing the Romans of the victory. So, at Masada, they sacrificed themselves in order to not be defeated by the Romans. And of course, there's several of those instances in ancient battle, not only in a battle sense, but also in a sense of personal defeat, that by ensuring you die or taking your own life, you aren't going to be mistreated or you aren't going to be made a laughingstock or mocked. So those occur as well. And, probably the most famous example of that is Cleopatra. And even a poem like it was Horace's Ode 31 seems to be begrudgingly admiring Cleopatra for her behavior there, even though it's probably framed as anti-Cleopatra propaganda, really. So there's that. Other exemplary defeats. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you get defeats, and defeats are, when we talk with Jo Ball about her book about Varus, that Varus gets blamed for the defeat in the Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD, and several other defeats of Roman troops are blamed on a commander. Valens, for instance, gets blamed for the Battle of Adrianople, and other defeats are blamed on the Battle of Milvian Bridge is blamed on Maxentius's stratagem on the bridge going wrong. But the weird thing about a lot of those is they don't credit the victory of the enemy. They credit the mistake or the moral problems of the defeated. And I think what those stories miss out is that those defeats allow a pretext for punishment. So the idea of avenging, like we saw at Thermopylae, the idea of avenging that defeat hundreds of years later. I mean, Alexander in 334 BC, avenging a defeat from 480 BC, it's 150 years. So that idea sets up a really interesting pretext for punishment that can be used and referred to much, much later in wars against the same enemies. So, it's a fascinating sort of aspect of warfare. So off the top of my head, that's the best I can do. There's probably many other examples of exemplary defeats that I can't recall right now, but I hope that answers your question. And of course, you can ask us a question too. You can send us a postcard, send us an email, reply to a comment, and I will do my best to answer your questions. So I look forward to seeing you on the next Ancient Warfare Answers with me, Murray. Thanks. Bye.